A couple of tips too about this particular labyrinth. It's very rustic, very wooded, which I absolutely love. As you can see, my own is on the earth with stone.
And that's yours?
That is. Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you. I'll show you which pictures in here as we look are the ones of mine. Um, so anyway, be careful. I meant to bring some hiking sticks or walking sticks if there's anybody that needs a little extra security, just watch your step. And in that labyrinth, mine, because it's new, is not all overgrown yet. The one that's here, I wish I had a history of it, and I didn't have time to ask, how long has this been here? And tell me about who first envisioned it. But I didn't get that done, but it's obviously been here quite a while. There is at least one place in the labyrinth here that a tree is actually in the path. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the path goes up to a tree, and then, so you will need to do a little focusing, which is part of it, keeping yourself in there. And it's gonna feel weird because you're gonna move close to the center, back, and you're gonna think, what is going? And some of the meanders are a meander is a turn. This is a meander right there, and mine has more than the one that's here. The one that's here is kind of like great, huge loops, and then back again, sort of in this design. But you're gonna go in a way that may throw you a bit, which is part of the deal. Anyway, let me give you a little history on how I got interested in them, and then I've got just a few tips on my little slideshow. We've got 10 slides, so it won't take us too long because I want to make sure I give you plenty of time to go walk it. And if y'all are staying here, you might get a chance to walk it by yourselves in some of your free time, which I love a solo labyrinth walk. It's just, especially in a setting like this where you don't even hear interstate traffic, there's no noise, it's just so peaceful. And I know, Tatiana, you talked about nature and creation and how that can speak to us. And so to me, that is my personal experience with labyrinths, although because I walk pretty frequently, there are days my head doesn't get quite where it might need to be. The first time I walked to a labyrinth, I'd heard of them and maybe seen pictures of them, probably, didn't pay too much attention. But then I was on retreat in the mountains in North Carolina, and there was one there on the earth with bricks outlining it, a fairly large one because it was at a retreat center. And I was so excited to have an opportunity to walk one, so I did. And it just, some little seed was planted in my mind. That was in 2021. I thought, I would love to have one. I would just love to have one. But that kind of just sat there and simmered a while. And then last year in February, I began training to be a spiritual director. And one of the first things we got was a book of spiritual practices. And the labyrinth was one of the ones, a great many number of practices. As Linda mentioned this morning, there are so many practices. But this one just grabbed me. And I saw from looking at people who had graduated from the same institute where I'm studying that some of them had done their big project on labyrinths. And I thought, okay, this is it. So I started thinking, I really want one, and did the, background, read books. We ordered a template from the Labyrinth Company. We had to measure out our space to see how big ours could. Ours is 33 feet. The one here is much larger. I haven't measured it, but it's probably more than 40. It's really big. Anyway, it's the thing I love. So I'm going to sort of do a reverse of what Linda did. I'm going to give you your handout first. But to open our sacred space, I want to read from Henry Nouwen. You're familiar with him. From his book called Discernment. And you can find this little passage on page 54. If I am to follow Jesus, then I too must remain close to the soil. Often I look up into the clouds and daydream about a better world. But my dreams will never bear fruit unless I also keep turning my eyes again and again back to the dust of this earth and listen to what God is saying to me on the road of life. For I am connected to the earth and to all who walk the earth with me. Nature is not the background of our lives. It is a living gift that teaches us about the ways and the will of the Creator. So, when I was reading that book, I thought, ooh, that's about labyrinths to me. All right. I'm also new with using technology. A labyrinth is circular in shape, usually. They can be kind of kidney bean shaped. And I would love to pass these around each way. These are finger labyrinths. And yeah, if you want to start, and then y'all just pass those around. They can be used by anybody. I think especially children who might have trouble focusing, like kids with ADHD. Got some in my grandchild cohort. So I think they're all getting a wooden labyrinth for Christmas next year, even from the 22-year-old all the way down to the 7-year-old. Because I just think it would be wonderful for them to have a thing like that. And, maybe I can talk to them a little bit about how they can use it. Okay, their labyrinth is one pathway. It can look like a lot, but it's one way in, and it just meanders around. Kind of like life, you think you're going in one direction, and before you know it, you make this big old turn, and you're going the opposite of where you think you're going. And you're wanting to get to that center, that place where you feel most grounded or most connected, but you will get there. And then when you're walking a labyrinth, you get to the center, spend a little time there if you want to. We'll talk about that. You can pause and reflect. And then on the way back out, you return to your other normal life. If you can't get lost on the labyrinth, although you can step into a different path, you might step across some rocks you didn't realize. You will either wind up at the entrance or at the center. So it's not designed to trick you the way a maze is. So that's how labyrinths and mazes are different. And before I forget my handouts, take one of these, and you will see usually the last thing you do is an evaluation. This evaluation is not about you. This is, I want you to tell me how I can make this presentation better. So I thought you might, if you see these questions up front, then maybe you can listen with that in mind to critique me. There's no place on there for your name. The only way your name might be on there is if you want me to have your contact number, if you would like to be contacted, or if you want me to send you my contact information, if you're interested in pursuing it any other way. Okay, and I think most people would see the labyrinth as a metaphor for a life journey, but a labyrinth is whatever it is to you. Linda talked this morning about our uniqueness, how we're creatures made with a certain, we just come with our own gifts, our own weaknesses, I'm sure, and places where we've got a lot of room for growth. So just experience the labyrinth, whatever comes to you. I did mean to ask too at the beginning, who of you have had experience walking a labyrinth before? Okay, so maybe a few of you have not. Okay, good. Okay, good. Also, I'm bringing this up now. At the end of our labyrinth walk, I don't want you to feel obligated to all gather back in this room because it's the beginning of your free time, and I want you to feel free to go. If you do want to process anything about the labyrinth or talk further about it, I'll be in here, get my equipment. So I'm happy to spend some time if you're interested, but you're also free to leave the labyrinth and go about your business. If we had a labyrinth in the room next to us and we could go over there and walk, then we'd gather back in. But I don't think logistically that's easy to do today, and I want you to, have the rest of what you need for your retreat. Okay, I'll give you a little about the history of labyrinths. They're very ancient. It's thought that labyrinths have been around perhaps as long as 4,000 years. I don't think anyone is aware of any that you actually walked that are that old. But there are petroglyphs or drawings in caves, drawings on coins that are labyrinths that have been dated from that long ago. So they've been known for a very, very long time. In the medieval era of Christianity, they began to be found in cathedrals. So this one in Chartres, or some people pronounce it Chartres, I can't say it in French. But anyway, the person who trained me called it Chartres, so that's why I'm stuck on that pronunciation. But anyway, this one, they know was built in the early 1200s.
Wow.
So that's a very old one. There is a lady named Reverend Lauren Artress who yearly takes people on pilgrimages there to walk this one. And so that's my dream trip in life, to get to go and walk this one. There are different kinds of labyrinths. I didn't really go into that in any depth. There's a classical labyrinth, which, look at the back of my necklace. And I think the one here is classical. It seems to be laid out in that design to me, the one here at Camp McDonald. This one is called a medieval design. And can you see the pattern of a cross that's in it? And that's also true in my own, because it's modeled somewhat after a Chartres design. There were labyrinth designs drawn into manuscripts. You know how those really fancy little artwork that you might find in an old ancient manuscript where they're written by hand? Well, there are little labyrinths set into those. And I found out when I was doing my training and sent a picture of my own labyrinth in, that the one that mine is based on is called an Abington a la Chartres. So it has some features like this one. But that manuscript is from 1100. So it's even the design of it, and it was in some church that was dedicated to Mary, the mother of Jesus. So I found that a little kind of amazing, little synchronicities that I didn't plan, that just happened with mine. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about where these patterns came from. Now, obviously, there are no rainbow pine cones in nature. My sweet little freshman college grandson, who helped me with my PowerPoint, loved this pine cone because he wanted me to see how the colors were in a spiral, and so I included it for Will. That's for Will. But I've got a few examples here from actual nature of just things that evoke this feeling of something circular, something spiral, whatever. For me, it's almost like that's a fingerprint of God on creation. There are these, for some reason, these designs or these outlines have spoken to people across a great many cultures. And even before people could have traveled like they do now, there were ancient ones found in the southeast United States that had been done by indigenous people, places in Europe. It's hard to imagine that how people, they didn't know each other, but they somehow were inspired by the same symbols that are in nature that, like I said, I like to think it's God's fingerprint on things. So you're welcome to take these out and look at them. I also would have loved, and I need to add to mine, my pictures, a spider web think what spider webs look like. And there's so many things in nature that have this kind of symbolic circle. For me, it also speaks of the feminine. So I love just the idea of circles. Oh, the orange thing is carrot. And you will recognize a seashell, and you'll recognize a slice of a tree trunk. Obviously, these are not actual labyrinths. I mean, these are just circular things. But I think they would evoke that feeling that somehow came out in people's creativity. Okay. I get confused. My thing gives me a different thing. Okay, when you're thinking of how a labyrinth can be of value, for me, I love to think of a labyrinth as a prayer walk. It doesn't have to be, anybody can walk one, but it is such a lovely way to involve your body in prayer. You're walking so you're not doing other kinds of distracting things, but you're moving your body as you go around the path. And I do have little places, I'll show you when I get to another picture of my own labyrinth. I picked out some places in the rosette part of mine that I stand that represents the family of each of my children. And it's just a reminder to me to lift them up. And sometimes it's just their name, because I don't even know, God knows better than I do what they need. But I let my kids know that. This is where I stand when I pray for you. So, wanted them to know that. So anyway, that works for me. You may or may not feel like being in prayer today. Just do whatever feels right for you. Another thing, especially about outdoor labyrinths, is the connection with the creation. We talked about trees, other creatures, just the silence that's out there, that it can calm you if nothing else. I also like to think of being in the labyrinth as a time when you can focus on being in the presence of God. I think Linda brought out beautifully this morning how God in Christ, they're always with us. We're in Christ, He's in us. I love the above me, below me, within me, without whatever. But that a labyrinth, the center can symbolize that for you, sort of a feeling that the Spirit is there. And He's there whether we acknowledge Him or not, but it's kind of a good time to focus on that. I think for some people it can just be a time to meditate. Some people might bring a question they might bring a grief that they have to walk there. I do want to share one little story with you from, got a few minutes, from a guy who's a close friend of ours and actually is the father of my daughter-in-law. So we share, he and his wife and my husband and I share 3 grandkids and these beloved children, and we have been friends of theirs for a great many years. Well, Jim, we were at his house having a dinner or something, and he came in and he had a black stone in his hand, and he said, "Mary, this stone represents my daddy to me." And his dad's been dead for a number of years. And he said, "I have carried this stone with me, especially when I travel. I just keep it in my pocket. And when I go places that my dad never got to go, I hold it up, take a picture. It's like a selfie of Daddy. Here he is in Oregon. Here he is in Ireland." He had taken him all these places. And he said, "I've decided I want him to rest in your labyrinth." So I said, "Okay, I would be very honored if you would like to do that." Of course, this is all symbolic, and you understand the symbolism. But I didn't specifically ask him. My spiritual director wanted me to write that up as a verbatim, but because of my friendship with him, you know how it is with, I chose not to, but we did talk about it a bit, and I saw it my interpretation, although Jim didn't say this, was that he had reached a certain level in his grief that he could lay that stone. And I said, you can put it here. Then if you ever want it, if you need it back, it's here. And we will tell our children where it is so that when we're all gone, if they want to keep that stone just because of what that meant to you, then that would be a good thing to do. So one day they came. It would be one of the days that it rained all day long, and I knew it was going to, and we couldn't shift our times. But I thought, well, if he brings it, I'll let him, it's his choice whether he wants to do it. So he got an umbrella, went out in it was a very gentle rain, but it was a very steady rain. And I had Bluetooth speaker I could put under the table on my deck. And so I sent out some cello music over the labyrinth when he walked it by himself. And I told him, I said, we're not going to stay out here with you except that I'll check, because it was raining, I'll check on you, but no, we are holding the space. We are with you in whatever this experience needs to be for you. So he was out there a long time. And he said, I tried one place and another place, because he said, where do you want me to put it? And I said, well, something will call to you. You will feel a place that feels right for you, and just leave it where it feels right to you. So when he came back in, he had tears in his eyes. And he said, I found the perfect place. He said, I did have to try 2 or 3 places, but I found one, and there were these 4 big rocks kind of anchoring. I'll show you when we get to the thing. The places where the meanders happen have extra rocks. So it was in that, those are called labyrinths, I think, is the pronunciation. But anyway, on the medieval style ones. So he found a place, and he said, though it looks like those 4 rocks are protecting my daddy, and he would like this very much. So I love, I can remember to say an extra prayer for Jim when I'm walking, because I see that. And because I have a private one, I've allowed my children and my grandkids who want to write their name on a stone and leave it in there. And it's been a good family thing for us, even though they may think their mother's a little out there sometimes. Okay. I loved finding scriptures about walking. There are so many metaphors for it, path, walking, in the Bible, and these are the ones that I picked out. Let's see, let me get somebody to read. Who would like to read the first one?
I'll read the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Make me to know your ways, O God. Teach me your paths.
Okay. Who would like to read the next one?
I will.
Oh, okay.
You showed me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. In your right hand are pleasures forevermore.
Can you see the?
Yeah.
Nice.
Stand at the crossroads and look, and ask for the ancient paths where the good way lies, and walk in it, and find rest for your souls.
Very much. As far as how to walk the path, I don't advise walking the one here at Camp Magnolia barefoot, because I've not checked that out. But if you ever get a chance and you're on one on natural turf, it feels really good to walk right on the ground, which I do sometimes. It feels good. When you get to the beginning, if you'll just take a minute to take a breath, if it's still out there, I put a little sign where the entrance is to the one here. It's just a bit hard to decide where it is. So there's a little sign there, a little pot of maybe flowers if the deer didn't eat them yet. And so just stop there for just a minute. And then when you're ready, you can either say a prayer, you might think of a question you have going into the labyrinth. It doesn't have to be anything. Just take a deep breath and then just start in. Walk at whatever pace is comfortable for you. Most people like to walk them somewhat slowly and meditatively. You especially need to do that when you get to the meanders, because they can be a little bit of a sharp turn. Although, if you wanted to run through a labyrinth shouting because you had something to be joyful about, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either. There's anyway, and with gratitude. That is one of my favorite places to just give thanks. It feels like a sacred place. So I've kind of already said these things. This little dude was in my labyrinth over the Christmas holidays, and his mother was going to go get him. And I said, "Oh, James, he's getting in your labyrinth." I said, "A baby in my labyrinth? That is the best thing ever. I got to go get my camera." So I won't put him on social media because of how you are, but since this is my private slideshow, there's James, who was very fascinated with the rocks. Oh, and I didn't realize this picture caught this, to tell you of different, if you ever have the opportunity to invest in being able to leave stones somewhere, this stone, this little yellow one here, this one came from the cemetery where my mother's parents are buried. It's a little heart-shaped one, and I thought, oh man, that's like Momo and Papa Mays. So I got that. This one right there with the sort of black on top came from a friend who had a priest bring it to her from the Holy Land 40 years ago. And she said, it's been blessed by a priest. And she said, I've had it all these years, and I think you would like to come and live in your labyrinth. So I just love the idea of that. And then, oh goodness, I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I did know. That's a friend in the contemplative prayer group in Birmingham who came down one day and left that one.
There's a contemplative prayer group in Birmingham?
Yes, there is. I'll give you their contact info. Beverly Braswell and her husband, oh man, Joseph. I'll get his last. I'll get you their contact info. Yes, they're very active.
Okay.
They are. Okay. You're going to, this is a group walk. This is our Cobb Valley Church that Wendy's a part of. And this is, you see, this picture of my labyrinth is more realistic. That first one looks like Photoshop. It doesn't look that good. But anyway, group walks have a particular value. I had been so selfish that I just thought I only ever want to walk one by myself. But there is really something to be said about other people being there. And especially if you're walking in silence, you're coming and going, sometimes you're going to pass somebody. In life, do you ever have people that are coming towards you and then after a while they're going another way? You know what that feels like? It can be good, it can be hard, just depending on, you know, what happens. So there's so many things that can happen with you metaphorically. The paths at this one at Count McDowell are quite wide. You may be able to pass one another. Most labyrinths, the paths are quite narrow, and you might need to step aside. If you see someone, fine, if you want to greet them, there's no problem with that. But a lot of times we just use soft eyes. You're giving them the space to be having whatever the experience is for them. You don't have to go in there with any expectation. Just walk and see what. I don't think you can make something happen. It's not that kind of experience. It's like maybe what you do when you're just in prayer. It is what it is. Okay, there you have a little, one of your handouts has got, let's see, y'all have any of those left, or were they all? Oh, yeah. I'll just tell you about these and then we're gonna have it. If you don't get a chance to write anything on here, and this is not a requirement, I'm not gonna count them, see how many people did it. But if you write something, you want to write something later, give it to Wynn if I'm already gone. I do have to catch a plane out of Birmingham in the morning, a little after 6 o'clock, so I've got to head home after this to get ready for that. This second page, that's from Veritas, which is this big worldwide organization that promotes and supports labyrinths. They have these things that can kind of help you remember at the entrance whatever it is you want to bring that day. then to release. I love the release thing. Sometimes I just imagine things falling off of me when I'm walking on the end path. And then in the center, I love the idea of receiving. First time when my little 10-year-old granddaughter Pippa walked my labyrinth. She had walked one with me before over at a church, but the day she walked the one in my yard, she walked in, she got about right here, and she saw that it turned this way, and she knows she's going there. So she's like, she stopped and she looked, and I saw her doing this with her finger, trying to decide if she actually was going to get to the center. Y'all, when she did, that child just went. You know, unprompted, that was just her response. There is a bench in the labyrinth here. If you want to sit there in just a minute, you may. If you don't, other people may be in the center. It's a pretty big center. There's a little bit of room. So if you don't have all you want of the experience out of it, you might get another chance. Here is a finger labyrinth. Some of them I put in there upside down, folks, because you can see there's just one opening. Finger labyrinths are like this one. I love the grooved ones, but you can even do it with just a flat piece of paper. It's really nice if you put on some music, and you can use your non-dominant hand to trace it, and you will have to pay a lot more attention if you do that. So if you just need a way to calm yourself down, that's a way to do it. And then the very last page is a list of the labyrinths that I'm aware of in Birmingham. There may be more, but these are available. So, and I think no church would mind whatsoever if you stopped in. I usually do if it's in daytime hours and I think their office is open. I step in there and just say, I would like to walk your labyrinth, because I don't want people to think you're not stalking somebody, but most people would be very glad for you too. So before we head out, any questions? Anybody learn anything at all?
That's fantastic.
Okay, good.